Well, look, at the end of the day, Joe Biden himself gave an interview with the New York Times admitting that he didn't individually review all the pardons himself.
All the thousands of them.
That he delegated that. Well, that's not the way the president is the only person that has the power to pardon. But when we met with all the inner circle, they all had differing stories on how the use of the Autopen was authorized. There were lots of inconsistencies. There was no consistent chain of custody. Then you have the emails from the Merrick Garland Department of Justice that were sent to people in the Biden administration, warning them about the excessive use of the Autopen on legal documents. So, you could make the argument that you're not even supposed to use an Autopen at all on a legal document. You could make the argument that it's okay to use it occasionally. The last 3 months of the Biden administration, at a time when all of these inner circle people had no contact whatsoever with Joe Biden. He was not giving public appearances. He was not issuing statements as to why he made this decision to pardon these people or why he made the decision and what process on the executive order. We just would read in a newspaper excerpt the morning of that the president had done this.
So you know that the Justice Department, back during the Bush administration, there's Office of Legal Counsel guidance saying that use of the Autopen is perfectly acceptable.
Right. That was, you had an instance where the Autopen was used when the president was out of the country or whatever. 75% of the time when the Autopen was used, especially during the lame duck period of the White House, and this is thousands of times, 75% of the time, Joe Biden was in the White House.
What's your response?
Well, they ought to push back, or else they were forging his name. But at the end of the day, look, there are no records in the National Archives of notes. There are some pardons and some executive orders that were signed with the Autopen where they claim that Biden verbally or orally gave the permission to do it. There are some that were testifying that they only used memos. They had a memo, and President Biden, some staffer would type a memo, then Joe Biden would read the memo authorizing the use of the Autopen, then sign his initial, and then someone would use Autopen. Why not just sign the document? It's one signature. So, none of this makes sense. It all falls back also on, was the president even mentally fit to make those decisions? And that's when we brought Dr. O'Connor in. And Dr. O'Connor, when the first question we asked, were you ever told to lie about Joe Biden's health?
The White House physician, yes.
The White House physician, and he pled the Fifth Amendment. So he wouldn't answer that.
You referred to him and then two other aides, Anthony Bernal and Annie Tomasini, all of whom pleaded the Fifth, to the Justice Department. What are you expecting them to look into? We
believe there was a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental fitness. The fact that Joe Biden met with Ian Sams, his White House spokesperson, 2 times in 2 years. The fact that he met with Neera Tanden, who was his executive secretary, once every month or whatever. I mean, it's shocking. Every other president, President Obama, President Bush, President Trump, they meet with these staffers multiple times per week. And Joe Biden was clearly shielded. And I think you wrote very well and very accurately in your book that he was shielded from people. He was shielded from Pete Buttigieg. He was shielded from his inner staff. So the question that I think the Department of Justice needs to ask these people that pled the Fifth, was there an organized cover-up? Why did you not give the president a cognitive test when even mainstream media outlets were demanding that Joe Biden take a cognitive test?
So I got hold, a source gave me an email that Ed Martin, who's the pardons attorney, sent to you from Monday of this week, saying that he can't stand by these pardons, and he's going to investigate them. I wonder if you worry at all about the precedent of undoing pardons, commutations, clemencies, because of an assessment that is disputed.
I think that the pardon process needs to be reviewed. I think the pardon process has been abused. I would like to see legislation that defines the exact proper process for how a pardon is issued, regardless of who the president is. Having said that, I think anyone that reads this report, anyone that watches the hours and hours of depositions would conclude that Joe Biden wasn't the one making those decisions. They had opportunity after opportunity to demonstrate a consistent pattern of how pardons were authorized, and they failed to do that. And look, everyone in America saw with their own eyes a declining president of the United States. And the fact that there was so much activity during the lame duck period, it seemed like from the time of the debate until the transition of power, that's when the use of the Autopen greatly accelerated. And again, 75% of the time that Autopen was used, they claimed Joe Biden, according to the records, was in the White House. Why wouldn't he be more involved? Why wouldn't there be notes from meetings that Joe Biden said this? There's no documentation that would suggest Joe Biden was involved in the pardon process.
I guess the